The sky above Earth had always seemed ordinary to most people. Clouds drifted lazily, the sun rose and fell, and the stars twinkled at night like tiny distant lights. But above the atmosphere, in the cold emptiness of space, something unusual was happening. The humans on the planet below didn't realize it yet, but the galaxy had been treating their world like a dumping ground. Broken ships, outdated drones, and pieces of alien machinery were discarded without care, jettisoned into a corridor of space near Earth. To the alien races, it was nothing more than trash. A harmless place to throw their unwanted things. They assumed no human could ever understand what they were throwing away. On the ground, life went on as usual. People walked the streets, worked in offices, studied in schools, and worried about everyday problems. No one paid attention to the quiet objects that fell from the sky, because most of them burned up in the atmosphere or landed in oceans and deserts where they went unnoticed. But some things survived the fall. Some pieces of metal, small devices, and fragments of machinery made it safely to land. These pieces, strange and unfamiliar, would catch the eye of a few curious humans. These humans were not famous scientists or inventors. They were ordinary people working in small workshops or university labs, following their curiosity. When they found the first fragment, they couldn't believe what they were seeing. The metal was unlike anything on Earth. It was strong but light, with patterns and circuits that didn't match any human technology. When they touched it, it felt alive in a strange way, as if it was waiting to be understood. At first, the fragments were confusing. Entire components seemed broken or incomplete. No human had ever seen such complexity before. But humans have a way of seeing patterns where others see chaos. They began to take the pieces apart, examining them, testing them, and slowly figuring out how they worked. One by one, they discovered secrets hidden inside the metal. Tiny engines that ran without fuel, circuits that carried information faster than anything humans had built, and strange power sources that glowed with soft energy. The work was difficult, frustrating, and slow. Many of the fragments made no sense at all. Some exploded when mishandled or short-circuited in unexpected ways. But humans were patient. They experimented, failed, and experimented again. They shared ideas, built models, and slowly learned how to make sense of the alien scraps. What the galaxy had thrown away, humans were learning to understand and improve. In workshops scattered across the planet, humans began to imagine what could be done with these pieces. If they could take a broken engine and make it run, what could they do with a whole ship? If they could understand a small energy core, what could happen if it was combined with human engineering? The possibilities were exciting, almost frightening. It was as if the scraps themselves were a puzzle, and humans were the only ones who could solve it. Governments eventually noticed the activity. At first, they were suspicious. Why were people collecting alien junk? Was it dangerous? Could it be a threat? But when reports came back of engines working, devices functioning, and small machines being built from scraps, the fear turned into interest. Leaders began to see the potential, not just for defense, not just for science, but for industry. 4. The first time, Earth could take something from the galaxy and turn it into something new and powerful. A secret initiative was formed. Teams of engineers, scientists, and visionaries were brought together. They shared knowledge, created hidden laboratories, and worked in ways that the rest of the world could not see. They were careful. They called the project Reforge, because that was exactly what they were doing. They were taking pieces of something discarded and forging them into new tools, machines, and technologies that could change the planet forever. The early days were full of trial and error. Entire engines were tested only to fail spectacularly. Machines caught fire, circuits melted, and some of the first prototypes were unusable. But humans did not give up. Every failure was a lesson. Every mistake brought new understanding. Slowly, they began to succeed. Engines ran. Devices powered up. Strange alien metals could be shaped and used without breaking. It was a slow transformation, almost invisible to the rest of the world, but it was happening. What was most remarkable was how humans approached the challenge. Alien technology was strange, but humans did not simply copy it. They experimented, adapted, and improved. Where the aliens had left gaps in knowledge, humans filled them with creativity and intuition. They combined the best of what they understood from their own technology with what they discovered in the scraps. The result was something new, something the galaxy had never seen. People began to talk quietly about what was happening. Stories spread among engineers, inventors, and curious minds. Some said humans were building small spacecraft from the scraps. Others said they had discovered energy sources that could power entire cities. Nobody outside the initiative could see the full picture yet, but those inside knew that the work being done could change everything. Earth, the planet once ignored and underestimated, was beginning to awaken. And yet, the humans worked mostly in silence. They did not seek recognition or fame. A galaxy was watching, even if it did not know it. Alien observers, accustomed to treating Earth as primitive, did not yet realize that humans were learning their secrets. They assumed the planet was harmless, that no human could make sense of their discarded machines. But humans were patient, persistent, and clever. The galaxy had underestimated them. As the months turned into years, the pieces of alien scrap began to take shape into something recognizable. Small machines, almost organic in their design, moved and operated. Energy cores hummed with a steady glow. Even some experimental engines, built from fragments that had once been considered useless, began to run smoothly. The humans were not just surviving the scraps, they were mastering them. In one small laboratory, a group of engineers gathered around a prototype that no one outside the project had seen. It was a hybrid engine, built from human design and alien parts. When it started, it ran silently and cleanly. The engineers cheered quietly, knowing they had achieved something extraordinary, something that would be the first step toward a future the galaxy could not imagine. This was only the beginning. The scraps were still falling from space, still discarded by the careless galaxy. But every fragment held a secret, every piece a possibility. And humans were ready to find it. They were ready to take what others had thrown away and turn it into something the universe could not ignore. The sky above Earth looked the same to the ordinary person. Clouds drifted, birds flew, and satellites circled silently. But above it, all in the quiet corridor of space filled with alien debris, a revolution was beginning. Humans, curious and determined, were taking what the galaxy had abandoned and building the first steps of a new future. A future where Earth would no longer be ignored, where discarded scraps could become the foundation of unimaginable power. And as humans worked quietly, patiently, and brilliantly, the galaxy continued to underestimate them. It would soon learn that nothing thrown away by others was ever truly wasted when humans were involved. The scraps that had once seemed like worthless alien trash were now treasures in the hands of humans. In hidden labs and secret workshops across the planet, engineers and scientists worked day and night. They were no longer just examining fragments. They were learning to take the pieces apart, understand the design, and put them back together in ways the aliens had never imagined. The first few successes were small, almost humble. A small engine that could move a cart, a hovering drone that could carry light loads. But every success brought hope and determination. Humans realized that they were capable of more than anyone had ever expected. It started with curiosity. One day, a group of engineers discovered a small energy core among the alien scrap. It was no bigger than a human fist, yet it radiated a gentle hum of power. They had never seen anything like it. At first, they feared it. Some of the earliest experiments had been dangerous. Sparks flew, machines hissed and shook, and one prototype had even caused a small fire in a workshop. But humans are persistent. Instead of giving up, they studied the core, tested it, and learned its limits. Slowly, carefully, they began to make it work with human-built circuits. The moment the energy core powered a small vehicle for the first time, everyone in the lab felt a surge of excitement. They watched as the tiny machine moved effortlessly across the floor. It was a small thing, almost insignificant, but it represented a breakthrough. The humans had taken a piece of alien technology, something that was never meant to be understood by them, and they had made it work. The feeling was electric. For the first time, they realized that they could not only understand the aliens' designs, they could improve them. Word of these successes spread quietly among the scientific community. The initiative, once small and secret, began to grow. More engineers, more researchers, and even some students with exceptional skills were invited to join the project. Together, they experimented with larger pieces of alien machinery. Broken engines that had been thrown away were rebuilt. Stripped-down drones were modified to carry heavier loads. What once seemed impossible was now happening right before their eyes. One of the most exciting discoveries was how to combine human and alien designs. Humans had a different way of thinking. They didn't just copy what was already built, they adapted it. A broken alien propulsion system, when combined with human-engineered materials and circuits, became faster and more efficient than anything either species could have created alone. Machines that had been discarded as useless suddenly had new life. Humans were not just learning, they were creating. The work was not easy. There were setbacks, failures, and moments of frustration. Some machines refused to work, no matter how carefully they were rebuilt. Entire projects were scrapped when they failed to meet expectations. But every failure taught something valuable. Humans began to see patterns, connections, and methods that the aliens had never intended. They discovered ways to stabilize energy. Cores enhance propulsion systems and build circuits that could handle greater power. It was a process of trial and error, guided by imagination and determination. The initiative began to take on a new energy. Laboratories were buzzing with activity. People worked in shifts around the clock. Some stayed awake for days, driven by the excitement of discovery. Even when machines failed, they did not give up. They talked to each other, shared ideas, and encouraged one another. It was teamwork on a level never seen before. Everyone knew they were part of something bigger than themselves. They were creating the first steps toward a future where humans could stand as equals in the galaxy. One particularly challenging project involved a propulsion engine that had been thrown away as scrap. It was damaged and incomplete, missing several key components. Most engineers would have given up, but humans are not most engineers. They studied the engine carefully, mapping its systems and testing different combinations of parts. Sometimes the engine would spark violently, or overheat, or simply fail to start. Yet, with patience, they discovered a way to replace missing components with human-made parts, and the engine began to work. Not only that, it worked better than anyone had expected. It was faster, more efficient, and more durable than the original design. The implications were enormous. If humans could take broken alien engines and make them better, what else could they do? They began to think bigger. Drones that could transport heavy cargo, vehicles that could travel faster than any human machine before, even small ships that could leave Earth's atmosphere. The scraps were no longer just curiosities. They were the foundation for a new era of human engineering. Every piece they studied, every component they rebuilt, became a stepping stone toward something far greater. It was not just the engineers and scientists who were involved. People from different fields contributed in unexpected ways. Mathematicians helped optimize designs. Chemists studied alien materials and discovered how to make them stronger. Even artists contributed by creating intuitive designs that made machines more functional. It was a global effort, and each success brought new excitement and hope. Humans began to realize that the scraps were not just a chance to learn, they were a chance to create. As the work progressed, governments started to take notice. Initially, they were cautious, unsure of what humans were building. But as reports came in of functioning machines and successful tests, they began to understand the potential. Earth had been underestimated for so long, considered too primitive to matter. Yet here were humans, taking what others had thrown away and turning it into technology that could compete with the best in the galaxy. Some governments began to support the project, providing resources, funding, and protection for the initiative. With support came faster progress. Labs were expanded, testing facilities were built, and more people were recruited. Larger and more complex machines were developed. Engineers started combining multiple alien engines, creating hybrids that were more powerful than anything the original designers had intended. Vehicles that could carry tons of cargo, ships that could hover silently, and machines that could operate in harsh environments became possible. The humans were no longer just experimenting, they were building. But despite the growing success, there was a sense of humility among the engineers. They knew that what they were building was only possible because of the scraps they had been given. Every piece of alien technology was a gift, even if it had been discarded. Humans approached their work with respect for the unknown, careful not to damage what they did not fully understand. That combination of curiosity, creativity, and caution became the hallmark of their work. The first human-built hybrid machine was a milestone. It was a small vehicle, built from alien engines and human-designed circuits. When it moved under its own power for the first time, it was silent, smooth, perfectly balanced. The engineers who had worked on it felt a sense of awe and pride. They had taken something that the galaxy had discarded as useless and transformed it into a functioning, improved machine. It was proof that humans could not only survive in a universe dominated by alien technology, they could thrive. This success was just the beginning. With each new machine, the humans learned more. They discovered ways to scale up designs, power larger engines, and build more complex systems. What had once been scraps in space was now a treasure trove of possibilities. Humans were beginning to see a future where they were no longer observers in the galaxy, but participants. They were not just using technology, they were mastering it, improving it, and creating their own. The excitement was not limited to the laboratories. People began to talk in quiet tones about what was happening. Stories spread about vehicles that ran on strange energy, engines built from alien scraps, and machines that could do things no human technology had ever done. Curiosity grew across the world. People were no longer just watching the skies. They were imagining what humans could do with the pieces of the galaxy itself. And through it all, the humans never stopped working. Each new piece of scrap was a puzzle, a challenge, and an opportunity. They learned, adapted, and improved. They discovered patterns and connections that no one had expected. Slowly, the scraps of the galaxy were being transformed into the first signs of human power beyond Earth. At the end of this stage, the humans had achieved something extraordinary. They had taken the junk of the galaxy, broken and discarded, and made it work. They had created functioning machines, improved engines, and powerful devices. The process was still ongoing, but one thing was clear. Humans had begun a journey that would change the way the universe saw them. From curiosity to mastery, from scraps to working machines, They were proving that nothing thrown away by others was ever wasted when humans were involved. And as humans looked at the machines they had built, carefully studying each improvement, each success, they knew that this was only the beginning. The scraps were no longer alien junk. They were the foundation for something far greater. Something that could one day make Earth a force in the galaxy. Something that would show the universe that humans were not just clever, they were unstoppable. The small successes of the previous years had sparked something incredible among humans. What had once been isolated experiments in secret labs now began to grow into a larger vision. People could see that the scraps of alien technology were not just curiosities, they were opportunities. They had discovered how to make broken engines work, how to stabilize strange energy cores, and even how to improve on designs that had once seemed impossible. Now, humans were ready to take the next step, building machines on a larger scale, machines that could change the world. It began with workshops expanding into factories. Where once there were a few engineers tinkering with scraps, there were now entire teams dedicated to creating hybrid machines. The workspaces became noisy and alive, filled with the hum of machinery, the smell of heated metal, and the constant energy of people working together. Humans had learned to take alien technology and make it practical, but now they wanted to make it useful on a larger scale. Small engines became larger ones. Tiny vehicles became transport drones. And for the first time, humans began thinking about what could be built if they had enough materials, enough space, and enough imagination. The first large project was ambitious. A hybrid transport vehicle capable of carrying heavy loads across land and water. It combined alien propulsion systems with human engineering. The engineers faced countless challenges. The alien engines were powerful but temperamental. Some cores would overheat, some materials would crack under stress, and some circuits would fail without warning. Each failure was frustrating, but humans had learned patience. Every time a machine broke, they studied it, understood why it failed, and tried again. Slowly, the designs improved. One morning, after months of work, the first hybrid transport rolled across the factory floor. It moved silently and steadily, carrying weight far beyond anything a human-built vehicle could handle before. Engineers watched with wide eyes as the machine performed perfectly. There was no grand announcement, no celebration outside the workshop, but inside, everyone felt the excitement. This was not just a machine. It was proof that humans could take what the galaxy considered useless and make it extraordinary. Word of these successes spread quietly. More people became involved. Engineers from different parts of the world offered ideas. Materials specialists studied alien metals and found ways to strengthen them. Designers worked on systems that could handle more energy, more speed, and more weight. What had begun as a small project in secret workshops had now grown into a coordinated effort that spanned countries and continents. Humans were building, learning, and improving at a pace no one had expected. The factories soon produced more than just transport vehicles. Smaller machines for construction appeared, capable of lifting, digging, and assembling structures. Energy generators were built, powered by hybrid cores, capable of supplying entire towns with clean and efficient power. Drones and robotic helpers began performing tasks that had once been too dangerous or difficult for humans. Every new machine was a step forward, a sign of human ingenuity, and a signal that Earth was no longer ordinary. Humans began to realize something extraordinary. They were not just replicating alien technology, they were improving it. Broken engines became stronger than their original designs. Energy cores that had been unstable became reliable and safe. Circuits that the aliens had discarded as fragile were now efficient and durable. Humans were finding ways to combine systems that the aliens had never considered. Every success inspired new experiments, and every experiment revealed new possibilities. The rise of human industry did not happen without challenges. The resources needed to build these machines were vast. Engineers and scientists had to find new ways to mine materials, process them, and produce components at scale. They had to innovate beyond what the aliens had done, creating manufacturing techniques and assembly lines that were uniquely human. It was hard work, often exhausting, but the sense of purpose kept people going. They knew that what they were building could change the course of history. With each passing month, the factories grew. Machines were no longer confined to small labs. They were built in large assembly halls, capable of producing multiple units at a time. Engineers began designing entire systems, not just individual machines. Transport networks, energy grids, and construction fleets became possible. Humans were thinking bigger, imagining how their technology could transform the world. And in doing so, they were learning to think like engineers who could compete with the galaxy itself. One of the most remarkable aspects of this work was the collaboration. People from different backgrounds contributed their expertise. Materials. Scientists worked alongside engineers. Designers collaborated with energy specialists. Even ordinary workers who had no formal training became part of the process, offering ideas, testing prototypes, and helping assemble machines. The sense of teamwork was extraordinary. Everyone felt that they were part of something bigger than themselves, a project that could change the destiny of humanity. The hybrid machines soon attracted attention. People outside the secret projects began to notice the changes. Vehicles that moved silently and efficiently, small drones performing incredible tasks, and energy systems far beyond anything previously imagined became topics of quiet discussion. While the full scope of the work was still hidden, the first signs of human innovation were beginning to show. Engineers began experimenting with combining multiple alien engines into single machines. The results were astonishing. Machines became faster, stronger, and more versatile. A single transport vehicle could now carry multiple tons, travel long distances, and operate in harsh conditions. Energy cores powered entire factories without fail. Drones performed complex tasks that had once required human hands. The factories were no longer just producing machines. They were creating tools that could change society. The growth of human industry was not just technological. It was cultural. People began to see themselves differently. For centuries, humans had been considered weak or unimportant by alien observers. Now they were proving that they could take what others discarded and make it work better than ever. There was a new sense of confidence, pride, and possibility. Humans were no longer just survivors. They were innovators, builders, and creators. In one large assembly hall, a team worked on a machine that had once seemed impossible. It was a transport and construction hybrid, capable of moving massive objects and assembling structures automatically. For months, prototypes had failed. Engines overheated, circuits shorted, and materials cracked under stress. But humans did not give up. Each failure was a lesson. Each mistake revealed a new possibility. And finally, the machine worked. It moved, lifted, and built. Engineers watched in awe. This was not just a machine. It was a symbol of human determination and ingenuity. Even as humans achieved these successes, they did not stop experimenting. Every new idea, every new fragment of alien scrap was an opportunity to learn and improve. Engineers constantly tested new designs, combined systems in unexpected ways, and pushed the limits of what humans and alien technology could achieve together. The factories were alive with innovation, and the people working in them felt the thrill of discovery every day. The progress was not just about machines. It was about people learning to see opportunity where others saw waste. The galaxy had discarded its old technology, thinking it useless. Humans had taken it and transformed it into the first signs of power and influence. Every vehicle, every drone, and every energy core was proof that creativity, determination, and teamwork could turn even scraps into something extraordinary. By the end of this stage, Earth was no longer a planet known for ordinary life. Hidden workshops and secret factories had grown into a network of human ingenuity. The machines built from alien scraps were the foundation of what would become a new era. Humans had not just built engines and vehicles, they had built confidence, knowledge, and the first steps toward a future where they could compete with the stars themselves. And as humans continued to work, experiment, and innovate, one thing was certain. The scraps that the galaxy had thrown away were no longer useless. They were the tools that humans would use to shape the future. From curiosity to mastery, from small engines to large factories, humans were proving that with patience, creativity, and determination, anything was possible. The factories, the engineers, and the machines were only the beginning. Humans were building more than technology. They were building the machinery of their own empire. And the galaxy, still unaware, was about to take notice. For a long time, humans worked quietly, almost unnoticed. The factories, workshops, and labs were hidden, tucked away from the world. People focused on building, learning, and improving. They had taken scraps of alien technology and transformed them into functioning, improved machines. Every success was a step toward something greater. But while humans were absorbed in their work, the galaxy was beginning to notice something unusual. It started with small observations. Alien traders, explorers, and survey ships passed near Earth and noticed strange patterns in orbit. Satellites moved differently than expected. Objects seemed to shift and assemble in ways that were not natural. Some ships reported that pieces of alien debris were being taken down, reassembled, and even improved. For beings who had long considered humans primitive, it was a curiosity. Most dismissed it at first. Humans had never done anything remarkable before. Why would they start now? But curiosity turned to concern when reports of working machines began to reach the councils of nearby star systems. Small vehicles hovering, drones, and engines that seemed far too advanced for Earth's population were being detected. Observers were puzzled. No one could explain how a planet that had once been ignored could suddenly produce technology that rivaled what the galaxy had considered standard. The reports were vague at first, but over time, the evidence became undeniable. Humans were not only experimenting, they were innovating. Alien envoys were sent. They arrived in small numbers, hoping to investigate quietly. They assumed humans would be unable to comprehend advanced machinery, let alone replicate it. They expected to find primitive tinkering or misinterpretation of alien designs. What they found shocked them. The humans had taken fragments of discarded technology and built machines that worked better than some of the originals. Vehicles moved efficiently, engines ran smoothly, and power systems were stable beyond what anyone had thought possible. The aliens were forced to admit that humans had done something extraordinary. They had transformed trash into tools, discarded scraps into functioning machines. What made the achievement even more remarkable was the human approach. They had not merely copied what they found. They had studied it, adapted it, and improved it. They had applied creativity, intuition, and teamwork to create something the original designers could not have imagined. The first alien envoys were cautious. They approached the human-built machines carefully, running scans and testing systems. They examined the engines, energy cores, and circuits, looking for flaws or weaknesses. But time and time again, they found none. Every system worked flawlessly. Every machine performed better than expected. Slowly, the envoys realized that humans were not just clever, they were capable of mastering technology in ways that even the galaxy had underestimated. When reports reached the councils of nearby star systems, alarm spread. What had been dismissed as a primitive planet now appeared to be a source of innovation and power. The galaxy had long assumed that humans could not compete with the technology of advanced civilizations. Now, evidence suggested that humans were building machinery that could rival or surpass even some established star systems. Meetings were called, discussions were held, and the question on everyone's mind was the same. How had humans achieved this? Meanwhile, humans continued their work without realizing the attention they were attracting. They were absorbed in the excitement of creation, the challenge of taking scraps and turning them into something functional. Factories produced more complex vehicles and machines. Hybrid engines were tested and improved. Drones performed tasks that once required teams of humans. And while the galaxy watched from afar, humans quietly demonstrated ingenuity, determination, and creativity that would soon become legendary. One of the first signs of recognition came in the form of alien traders who attempted to engage humans. They approached with offers of trade, hoping to gain access to the technology that had been built from scraps. They assumed that humans would be eager to sell, exchange, or share. But the humans were cautious. They had worked hard to understand the machinery, and they knew its value. They agreed to negotiations, but only under terms that ensured humans would retain control and benefit from their inventions. The galaxy was surprised. Humans were not naive. They were smart, strategic, and capable of protecting their creations. This cautious approach earned respect. Alien traders began to understand that humans were not to be underestimated. They had taken discarded scraps and turned them into functioning, advanced technology. They had built machines that were practical, durable, and powerful. And more importantly, they had done it without any outside help. Humans had relied on curiosity, persistence, and intelligence to achieve what many civilizations could not. The attention from the galaxy began to influence human thinking as well. Engineers and scientists realized that the world outside was starting to notice their work. They felt a mix of excitement and responsibility. Every machine, every engine, and every improvement was no longer just a personal or local achievement. It was a demonstration of human capability on a galactic scale. The pressure inspired even greater innovation. Humans began experimenting with designs and ideas that had once seemed too ambitious. They tested engines that could travel longer distances, machines that could carry heavier loads, and energy systems that could power entire settlements. The first interactions with aliens were careful and cautious. Humans learned how to negotiate, how to explain their technology, and how to ensure that they remained in control of their inventions. They discovered that intelligence, strategy, and diplomacy were as important as engineering skills. They had taken the scraps of the galaxy and turned them into machines, but they now had to navigate the galaxy itself with the same care and intelligence. Over time, humans began to recognize a larger truth. The galaxy had underestimated them. For centuries, they had been considered weak, primitive, and unimportant. But through curiosity, persistence, and collaboration, humans had proven that they could take what others discarded and turn it into something extraordinary. It was a lesson in patience, intelligence, and vision. Humans were no longer just a species on a small blue planet. They were rising powers, capable of shaping their own destiny. Alien observers began to adjust their expectations. Where once humans had been dismissed, they were now acknowledged as a species with incredible potential. Engineers and leaders across star systems watched the progress with a mix of admiration and caution. Humans had demonstrated that they could not only understand advanced technology, they could improve it. They had taken fragments of machines and built entire systems, creating solutions that even the original designers had never considered Dot as recognition spread. Humans began to receive invitations to share knowledge, collaborate, and participate in galactic projects. They remained careful, balancing curiosity and caution. Humans understood the value of their work, and they were not willing to give away the secret to their rapid progress. But they also realized that engagement with the wider galaxy offered opportunities to learn, grow, and expand their influence. Within human workshops and factories, the feeling was electric. People knew they were part of something extraordinary. Every success, every working machine, was a demonstration of what humans could achieve when determination, teamwork, and creativity combined. They were proving to themselves and the galaxy that they were capable of greatness. Even the smallest vehicle, powered by scraps and human ingenuity, became a symbol of human potential. The galaxy's attention also brought challenges, some alien. Factions were wary, concerned that humans could become a threat. Others were curious, eager to understand how a species that had once been considered primitive could achieve such progress. Humans learned to navigate these complexities, balancing diplomacy, caution, and ambition. Every interaction was an opportunity to build relationships, assert independence, and demonstrate capability. Despite the growing attention, humans remained focused on innovation. Engineers continued to experiment, build, and improve. Factories expanded, new machines were designed, and even more complex hybrids were created. Humans had taken the scraps of the galaxy and turned them into functioning technology, but now they were thinking about what could come next. They imagined vehicles that could travel to other planets, machines that could operate in extreme environments, and energy systems that could support entire colonies. The galaxy had begun to notice, but humans were still leading the way with their creativity and determination. By the end of this stage, humans had achieved something remarkable. They had gone from curiosity to mastery, from experimentation to innovation. The galaxy had begun to recognize them not as a primitive species, but as a rising force capable of extraordinary achievement. Humans had taken what others discarded and transformed it into functioning, powerful technology. And they had done it with patience, intelligence, and collaboration. The factories continued to hum. Workshops remained busy, and engineers pushed the limits of possibility. Humans had proven that they were not to be underestimated. They had taken the scraps of the galaxy and turned them into machines that could compete with established civilizations. And as the galaxy watched with growing interest, humans understood that this was only the beginning. They were no longer high. Humans had been quietly building, experimenting, and improving their technology for years. What had started as curiosity with alien scraps had grown into a massive effort. Factories hummed with activity, workshops were alive with energy, and engineers were constantly testing new ideas. Humans had taken broken alien engines, damaged drones, and discarded energy cores, and transformed them into something that worked, and worked well. But the galaxy had begun to notice. The first serious attention came when a fleet of alien inspectors arrived near Earth's orbit. They had been sent by the Galactic Council, a powerful group of civilizations that oversaw trade and security across the stars. The Council had grown worried. Reports of human-built machines, capable of moving large cargo, operating drones, and harnessing powerful energy systems had reached them. They did not understand how a species that had once been considered primitive could suddenly achieve such capability. Their mission was simple: investigate, assess, and reclaim any alien technology humans had taken. The humans were ready. They had anticipated scrutiny for years and had prepared carefully. Instead of hiding, they had built defenses, hybrid ships, and operational fleets capable of responding to threats. These were not just experimental machines, they were ready for practical use. Every engine had been tested, every system checked, every core stabilized. Humans had turned what the galaxy had considered junk into functioning machinery that could rival any advanced civilization. When the alien inspectors arrived at the scrap corridor, they expected to see a small, primitive species fumbling with alien technology. They expected chaos, incomplete experiments, and fragile machines. What they found was astonishing. The corridor, once filled with floating debris, was now organized. Some scraps had been recycled into working engines, drones hovered efficiently, and transport vehicles moved steadily across the orbital space. It was a display of order, innovation, and efficiency. The inspectors approached cautiously, scanning the machines and sending signals. They attempted to communicate, but the humans were careful. They had learned negotiation, strategy, and diplomacy, and they were not about to reveal all their secrets. Instead, humans demonstrated capability. A small hybrid vehicle moved across the corridor, carrying a weight far beyond what the inspectors had expected. Drones performed tasks with precision. Engines hummed with power, energy cores glowed steadily. Every display proved that humans had mastered the technology. The alien inspectors were stunned. They had never seen a species take discarded technology and transform it so completely. The humans had not only made it functional, they had made it better than the original designs. Vehicles moved faster, engines ran longer, and systems were more efficient. It was a level of innovation that no one had anticipated. The Council had underestimated humans, and now they were confronted with evidence of extraordinary capability. The first challenge came when one INSPCTOR attempted to reclaim a hybrid engine. The humans did not resist violently, but they demonstrated control. Machines moved to block access. Engines powered up to show capability, and drones created barriers without harming anyone. It was a careful but powerful display. The inspectors realized that humans were not reckless. They were strategic, disciplined, and fully capable of protecting what they had built. The demonstration continued. Humans guided the inspectors through the corridor, showing working machines, hybrid drones, and transport vehicles. Every system was operational, every engine tested, and every core stabilized. The message was clear. Humans were capable, intelligent, and creative. They had taken what the galaxy discarded and turned it into something remarkable. They were not a threat to be crushed. They were a species to be respected. Despite their initial shock, the inspectors attempted to assert authority. They demanded access to all human-built machinery, assuming humans would comply. But humans had learned the value of their work. They responded with calm, strategic diplomacy, showing that they could defend their technology while remaining reasonable. Thus, inspectors were forced to admit that they could not simply take what humans had built. Humans had created something new, and they had the skill and intelligence to maintain control. The Council began to understand that humans were different. Where other civilizations might have copied or destroyed discarded technology, humans had innovated. They had taken scraps and transformed them into working machines, hybrid engines, and energy systems that could compete with the galaxy's best. The display at the scrap corridor was not just a demonstration, it was a statement. Humans were capable, persistent, and creative. They had proven that they could rise above what others expected. The humans also demonstrated collaboration and teamwork. Every machine displayed at the corridor was the result of collective effort. Engineers, scientists, and workers had combined their knowledge, creativity, and skills to build something extraordinary. The inspectors observed this unity and realized that human strength was not only in technology, but in their ability to work together. It was a kind of power that machines alone could not explain. For days, the inspectors studied the corridor, tested machines, and evaluated human capability. They reported back to the Council, describing vehicles that could move tons of cargo, drones capable of complex tasks, and engines far more efficient than expected. The council was impressed and cautious. Humans had transformed alien scraps into functional, improved technology, and they had done it on their own. The species they had once dismissed as primitive was now a force to be reckoned with. The confrontation reached its peak when humans allowed the inspectors to observe a coordinated demonstration. Hybrid vehicles transported heavy loads across orbital space, drones worked together to assemble structures, and engines powered machinery smoothly and efficiently. The display was not just about capability, it was about intelligence, organization, and strategy. The council realized that humans had created something unique. They had taken what others discarded and used it to build not just machines, but a demonstration of human potential. In private, the council debated what to do. Some argued that humans should be restricted, controlled, or even eliminated before they became too powerful. Others saw the opportunity for collaboration, trade, and mutual benefit. The humans had proven their intelligence, creativity, and capability. They were not reckless or violent. They were disciplined and careful. The council began to recognize that humans could be valuable partners rather than threats. For the humans, the confrontation was a turning point. They had expected scrutiny, possible conflict, and the need to defend their work. But the outcome was different. They had shown that intelligence, strategy, and teamwork could protect what they had built without violence. They had turned what the galaxy considered junk into functioning machines, and now they had gained recognition. It was a victory not just of technology, but of human spirit. After the confrontation, humans returned to their factories with renewed energy. The demonstration had shown the galaxy what humans could achieve, and it had shown humans their own potential. They continued to innovate, expand, and improve their machines. Every engine tested, every drone built, and every transport vehicle created was a step toward a future where humans could stand as equals among the stars. The scrap corridor, once a place of discarded debris, had become a symbol of human ingenuity. It was no longer a dumping ground for the galaxy. It was a demonstration of human capability. Every machine displayed, every hybrid engine running, and every drone in action proved that humans could take what others threw away and turn it into something extraordinary. It was a message that the galaxy would not forget. For the first time, humans understood the power of what they had built. They had turned alien scraps into functioning machines, hybrid engines, and efficient systems. They had organized, collaborated, and demonstrated capability in a way that no one expected. And in doing so, they had proven that the human spirit, curiosity, persistence, and creativity was as powerful as any technology. The Council's inspectors left Earth's orbit with a new understanding. Humans were no longer a primitive species to be dismissed. They were innovators, creators, and a rising force. The demonstration had shown not just machinery, but intelligence, strategy, and discipline. The humans had not only defended their work, they had elevated it, showing the galaxy that they were capable of more than anyone had imagined. From that day forward, humans continued to build, expand, and innovate. The scrap corridor was no longer just a place for discarded alien technology. It was a place of human achievement. Machines were tested, engines improved, and drones perfected. Humans had demonstrated their capability to the galaxy, and more importantly, to themselves. They had taken what others considered worthless and transformed it into a symbol of potential and power. And as humans looked at the machines they had built, the engines they had improved, and the drones they had perfected, they knew one thing. Clearly, this was only the beginning. The scraps of the galaxy were no longer trash. They were the foundation of human achievement, the first step toward a future where humans would shape their own destiny, and the galaxy would have no choice but to recognize their ingenuity and determination. After the confrontation in the scrap corridor, humans had gained the galaxy's attention. The alien inspectors had left, reporting back to the Galactic Council that Earth was no longer a primitive world. Humans had proven their intelligence, their creativity, and their ability to master technology that even advanced civilizations had discarded. But for humans, this recognition was only the beginning. They had learned an important lesson. The galaxy would never give them respect. They would have to earn it, build it, and defend it. Back on Earth, factories and workshops were buzzing with energy. Engineers, scientists, and workers moved with purpose. The demonstrations had shown them what they were capable of, and there was a new confidence in every human who touched a machine. Small hybrid vehicles that had once carried only a few tons were now being scaled up to transport hundreds. Drones that had once assembled small structures now worked together to build entire facilities. Humans were no longer just experimenting, they were building the machinery of their future. The first focus was on large-scale transportation. Humans realized that to expand and protect themselves, they would need the ability to move quickly, efficiently, and in strength. They designed massive vehicles capable of carrying heavy cargo, modular components, and even smaller machines. These vehicles could operate on land, water, and air, combining alien engines with human materials to make them stronger and more versatile. Every prototype was tested rigorously. Failures happened, as always, but humans had perfected the art of learning from mistakes. Energy systems were another priority. Hybrid energy cores, stabilized through years of careful experimentation, now powered factories, vehicles, and drones. Engineers had discovered ways to link cores together, creating energy grids capable of powering entire cities. Humans had taken scraps of alien technology that had once seemed unpredictable and transformed them into reliable, clean, and powerful energy sources. These systems were not just practical, they were revolutionary. Construction technology advanced rapidly as well. Drones now worked in coordinated teams, assembling large structures with speed and precision. They could build protective facilities, bridges, and even space launch platforms. Humans had transformed alien technology into tools that could shape the environment itself. Every machine was a testament to human ingenuity, creativity, and persistence. They were building more than machines. They were building infrastructure, systems, and foundations for an emerging empire. The sense of unity and teamwork became even more important. Humans had learned that technology alone was not enough. The combination of intelligence, collaboration, and determination had brought them this far, and it would carry them further. Engineers, workers, and scientists communicated constantly, sharing discoveries, improving designs, and pushing limits. Every success was celebrated, every failure analyzed, and every lesson shared. Humans had discovered that their greatest power lay not just in technology, but in their ability to work together. With these systems in place, humans turned their attention to defense and exploration. The galaxy had noticed Earth, and humans knew they could not rely on being ignored. They developed fleets of hybrid vehicles capable of rapid deployment, drones equipped for surveillance, and engines designed for endurance in harsh conditions. Every piece of technology was carefully crafted to maximize efficiency, adaptability, and reliability. Humans had learned that preparation, strategy, and foresight were as important as raw power. Exploration became the next step. Humans had always looked up at the stars with curiosity, but now they had the tools to reach them. Hybrid ships were designed to travel beyond Earth's atmosphere, using alien engines enhanced with human materials and design principles. These ships could carry cargo, conduct research, and support crews on long missions. Humans were no longer confined to their planet. They were stepping into the galaxy with confidence and skill. Diplomacy also evolved alongside technology. Humans had learned that the galaxy would test their resolve. Alien civilizations could be cautious, hostile, or curious. Humans approached each encounter with intelligence, patience, and respect. They demonstrated their capabilities, negotiated strategically, and maintained control over their inventions. These interactions taught humans valuable lessons in leadership, communication, and influence. They were building not just machines, they were building relationships that would shape the future of their empire. The hybrid machines themselves became symbols of human achievement. Vehicles and drones carried out tasks that once seemed impossible. Engines that had once been considered fragile now ran reliably for long periods. Energy systems powered entire facilities without interruption. Every machine was proof that humans could take what others discarded and transform it into something extraordinary. The galaxy could no longer underestimate Earth. Humans had demonstrated that intelligence, persistence, and creativity could turn scraps into the tools of power. As production scaled up, humans began to organize their technology into structured systems. Fleets of vehicles moved in coordinated patterns. Drones worked together with precision, building and maintaining infrastructure efficiently. Energy cores were networked into stable grids. Humans had created an ecosystem of technology, where each machine supported others, and every system contributed to growth, expansion, and security. It was not just an army of machines, it was the machinery of an emerging empire. The next step was to secure Earth's position in the galaxy. Humans knew that other civilizations might attempt to challenge them. They had learned that caution and strategy were vital. Hybrid fleets were deployed for patrol, reconnaissance, and rapid response. Drones monitored orbital space, detecting threats early. Energy systems were fortified, ensuring that human industry could continue even under pressure. Humans had transformed alien scraps into a self-sustaining network capable of protecting itself and advancing forward. With security established, humans turned to expansion. They built new factories, launched exploratory missions to nearby systems, and established infrastructure that could support life beyond Earth. Every new machine, engine, and drone contributed to this growth. Humans were no longer just defenders, they were explorers, innovators, and pioneers. They had created a network of technology capable of sustaining and expanding human civilization across the stars. The story of the scrap corridor had become legendary among humans. What had once been discarded alien debris was now a symbol of human determination, ingenuity, and potential. Every success inspired the next. Every machine built was proof that humans could turn challenges into opportunities. The galaxy had underestimated them, but humans had proven that intelligence, creativity, and persistence could overcome even the most daunting obstacles. Humans began to establish a system of training, research, and innovation. Young engineers learned from experienced scientists. Workers became skilled in maintaining and improving hybrid machines. Every new generation contributed to growth, expansion, and the refinement of technology. Humans had created not just machines, they had created knowledge, expertise, and the foundation for an enduring empire. Diplomacy continued to play an important role. Humans demonstrated their achievements to other civilizations carefully and strategically. They shared knowledge selectively, negotiated trade and collaboration, and ensured that their independence remained intact. Other civilizations began to respect, admire, and sometimes fear Earth. Humans had transformed alien scraps into machines capable of power, efficiency, and innovation that could rival established empires. By the time humans completed the first fully integrated hybrid fleet, they had achieved something extraordinary. Vehicles, drones, and engines worked together seamlessly. Energy systems supported vast networks of infrastructure. Factories and workshops produced machines at unprecedented speed and efficiency. Humans had turned alien scraps into the machinery of an empire, capable of defense, exploration, and expansion. Earth was no longer a planet to be ignored. It was a hub of ingenuity and power. The final realization came slowly but clearly. Humans had built more than technology. They had built confidence, knowledge, and the foundation for a future in which they could shape the galaxy itself. They had taken what others discarded, applied intelligence and creativity, and transformed it into systems capable of sustaining and expanding human civilization. The galaxy had been forced to take notice, and humans had earned a place among the stars. In the quiet moments, engineers and scientists would sometimes pause to reflect. They remembered the first fragments, the discarded alien engines, the failed drones, and the unstable energy cores. Everything had started small, almost insignificant. Yet through patience, teamwork, and relentless curiosity, humans had turned the scraps into machines that could carry humans to the stars. The journey had been long, challenging, and uncertain, but it had proven one truth. Humans could take what was considered worthless and turn it into greatness. And as humans looked out at the stars, their hybrid fleets ready, their factories producing, and their energy systems humming steadily, they understood their power. The scraps of the galaxy were no longer junk. They were the tools that humans had used to build their future. They had transformed debris into engines of possibility, failure into knowledge, and curiosity into empire.